Taking back the power.
The power.
The power.
The power.
The power.
The power.
Taking back the power.
The power.
The power.
The power.
The power.
The power.
Taking back the power. Yeah. So
The power.
in Africa, who are the Israelites, have been enslaved because they had the God's rule light, but then they were enslaved for the past 400 years, and this has brought this awareness into people that it has been 400 years. And in fact, when I first started when I made the first video about that, I hadn't even seen a single video about that people believe that slave trade started in 1619, because in 1619, 1620, this is when the first slaves arrived in America. And this has led to people believing that this 1619 to 2019 400-year period is the age of enslavement. And this understanding is what I actually resonate with, as understanding the knowledge in God being that to know the truth is to be set free. So to be set free as a captive means that you have gotten the understanding of what the truth is. So you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And this is what Jesus came to do, to set free the captives. So his truth is his freedom. So knowing the truth, or knowing his gospel, is knowing the God spell, which is the God time, which is the God spell. A spell is a time, right? A spell is also what he refers to as saying that I have sent you a deep delusion. So this is how you would know that my people perish because they do not have understanding. This is how they are actually in the God spell, in the gospel. So knowing the good news, knowing the God news, is knowing that you have the ability of God. Does not just scripture say that you are God? So having this basis is to know that you are God, in the sense that you are created in his image and likeness. So you have this capacity. This is why Jesus says, like, you do the things that I'm doing and even greater. So this is an issue of belief. But beyond that, it is all about understanding the fundamental of truth in your reality, truth in reality itself, in the universe. And this is what freedom is all about. So the people who are being freed are the people who are diligently searching for the truth, because search for the truth while it can still be found, search for wisdom while it can still be found. And this is how you become free. And this is what this freedom is. So in 2000, I remember, like, a lot of people actually thought like the world was going to end, and the world did end. And it began, because what is the beginning is the end, because the first is the last. So when we're living, when we say that we're living in the last days, it means that we're living in the first days. So every death is a beginning. Every beginning is a death. This is how when you're actually born from a womb, you're actually given or guaranteed a tomb. So which one comes first? So time is linear, but which one comes first? So this cycle of time is just the same thing that's happening over again. So in 2000, something that people thought was going to be the end of the world, like people just thought like the whole world's going to explode. And the world did explode with the bombing of the Twin Towers in 2001. This is a very, very iconic event that people are not, in my opinion, are underestimating. So let's just pull the timeline. In 1602 is the invention of this company, the Dutch East Indian Company, a Dutch company that comes to all of these countries and start trading in bonds and all of these things. This company has its own army, its own ships, its own everything, and it comes in its own name and proclaims that it is starting to enslave people for the reasons of making a profit. So when we understand the fact that the root of all evil is money, would understand that this Dutch East India Company is formed so that they can just make money. So their love for money led to slavery, because in 1602, this is when we have our first hint of this company, and this is where slavery starts. Because this is how I see it, that in the 1600s, this is when slavery starts. In 2000, this is where slavery ends. So slavery has ended a long time ago, but we're still enslaved because we still don't know the truth. So a person could still remain a slave forever if they don't understand the truth. So if you understood the truth, this is something that you got in the understanding of what reality was and where the truth is, like what the lie is, so that you know the delusion, and then what the truth is. Because the whole reason for God Himself giving us a gospel or God's spell was for us to realize what is real and what is not, for us to just snap out of it, to wake up in the matrix. Because however it is, like we're being programmed, our minds are being programmed by this life. So the test or the question is, are you going to allow yourself to be programmed? And a lot of people are living in the program. This is evident if you look around you. So many people like would cannot hear this information that you're hearing here. And for you to get to the stage of you hearing this information has been a certain journey. Like you just didn't come across this or search this or get this just because. But the very fact that you've come across this means that there's a certain awareness that you're allowed to get. Because knowledge and truth is earned. You just don't stumble upon it, or even if you do see it, you don't grasp it. So it's always earned. It's something that you have in you, because God gives those who have and take from those who don't have. So if you already have knowledge, it means that you already have knowledge. If you already have truth, it means that you already have truth. And this is just how it works. So this is happening in this shift, because from 2000 onwards, we're living after 400 years of slavery. So slavery came in different stages. So in 1602, we have this company that's being formed. In 1611, we have the Bible that's being formed. The King James Version of the Bible comes in the 1611 version, authorized version, that came in order to give us this understanding that black people are slaves. The Israelites are slaves. So the Israelites were enslaved. So these Israelites were enslaved since 1611, and they've been living out this whole enslavement. The Mayans say in 2012 that the world is going to end. This is what they're actually referring to. This enslavement, the spell, the gospel is going to end, or it's going to be revealed to those who want to see it. Because even though they see, they don't see, they hear, they don't hear. So they're gonna hear, but they're not gonna hear it. So this is to know that the freedom is only the truth. The freedom is not to say that now you're gonna be flying in the sky. The freedom is to know that you now have the power of God. This is the power in order to proclaim the good news. This is all it is. That the disciples were freed by Jesus so that they could go and proclaim the news, and this is what they were doing. So this is what they lived for. And this is their example, and this is what it's all about. So this enslavement came because people's minds were caged and captured by a certain doctrine that gave them a certain understanding of who they were in a way that shifted how they believed they are, or God is, in relation to them. That if someone comes who is white and says that Jesus is white and you are black, so you are not allowed to eat on the same table and things like that. This happened for hundreds of years. So people's minds have been asleep for hundreds of years. So it's a choice to know the truth, and it's a choice to actually seek for the truth by you diligently applying yourself to the realization of the truth. So in the year 2000, a lot of people thought like everything was going to stop, like banks are just going to start spitting out money, and people are just going to start fainting in the streets. You know, they just had this whole idea of what it meant. But what was happening was that a shift in their understanding, in their knowledge was happening, because the same thing happened with Jesus. You have to realize that he came with a shift in understanding. He came with a paradigm shift, because the people who saw him thought that he was something else that he wasn't. So they thought that the king who is proclaimed is going to come with the government on his shoulder and all of these things, and they actually imagined in their minds that, nah, this can't be him, because we know in our minds that this and that is supposed to happen according to our own understanding. The same thing happened in 2000, like, all right, the world is gonna end. Then like, nah. So what people thought was like the world ends, like how a movie ends, and what it was actually signifying was the world beginning. So this is the beginning of this new world that is being directed by people who have this information, people who enslaved the people. And it's important, it's very important to realize that there are always two sides to everything with knowledge. There's good and there's evil, because the people who enslave the other people are the people who also have the knowledge that these are our slaves who are not meant to be our slaves. These are the real Israelites, because they have all of the information that they've taken out of Africa, out of the Israelites, and out of our minds, so that they use it to their advantage in order to keep us in captivity. So they're not going to be like, all right, yeah, cool. Like, you want to go and worship God in the wilderness like Moses did with Pharaoh? Cool, you can go by. They're not going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to direct your mind in order to be enslaved again, because the end is the beginning. So this is actually a beginning of a different form of slavery. This is to understand the difference in the awakening or in the awareness of this age, which is to be trapped in a different, in a more complex prison. Okay, so what is happening is that in 2001, this is when the bombing of the Twin Towers happened. And this happened because of Al Qaeda, this group of Al Qaeda, which systematically planned for attacks in the United States. And this created this whole war in Iraq, this whole war in the Middle East. And first of all, understand that the Middle East is part of Africa. This is where the river Euphrates is, and this is where it ends. And from there, this is where we have the location of the Garden of Eden. So the Garden of Eden is located in the motherland, and this is part of the Middle East. So the Middle East is part of Africa. And people would actually try to put the Middle East somewhere else, but according to geography, this is where it is. So this created an invasion in Africa, as I would put it, and this African invasion is causing this form of slavery that we have today in terms of Israel and Islam. And Islam is lamp or his lamp, and this is when the enlightened people created a fire, which is in illumination, which created a reason for them to go into Africa to take everything out of it, just like they've always done, because what has been is what will be. So this is creating our new world in this paradigm where now the new slavery is beginning. So we might have been in a different state of mind if this bombing had not happened. And this is, in my opinion, what Y2K is. This is what happened in Y2K, because this created death, despair, and it's still ongoing. Up until today, it's been 20 years. People are still fighting over this oil, over this money, because it's all about these corporations and it's all about this money. And we all know the real reason why they're in Israel, Afghanistan, Iraq, why they're all in these areas is because of the money. So it's always been because of the money. So this is what God is saying, what the Most High is saying, like the love of money is going to be the root of all of the enslavement, the root of all of the murder, the root of all adultery, all of these things. The evil comes from this money. So this event, some people believe it was true, some people believe it was fake. However it was, this created this paradigm that we're now in, which is supposed to be a time when we are escaping the slavery and understanding the truth, the reality, that Abraham himself did not have a religion. We are like we are put under these religions so that we stay within our regions, in our regions, that we just have a regional understanding. But the world is what we're given. When Abraham was put into the Middle East and told by God to look north, east, west, and south, he was told to look in all over the world, because in the Middle East is where all of the countries emerge. That's where they all merge. From the Middle East, you have access to countries in the north, in the west, in the south, and the east. So this is why this area is so key, and this is why they want to control it, and this is why everything is happening in such a way. So the illumination is using the Israelites or Israelites, the light, and then it is fighting his lamps, which is Islam. And this lamp is a lamb which is being slain, which is being slaughtered. I don't know why they're slaughtering people like that. And these people, in my opinion, these are just like, it's all about love, right? Because everyone is love. Everyone is created by love. So if you're actually not an alien and you're created by love, then we should just live with love, regardless if a person is Hindu or is not, is Muslim, which is just to know that God is one, love God and love your neighbor as you love yourself, and that is it. And this is the teaching of Abraham's kids, that whoever has this rule in their mind and uses it as a principal, they become a prince. So this is how we inherit the kingdom of God. This is the whole mindset behind it. So this 400 years of slavery has been a fact. And we can't dispute it saying that it hasn't been 400 years or it hasn't been slavery, because it has, because all of these corporations start from there. And all of the corporations after that are taking the template of the Dutch East Indian Company in order to enslave the people and trade bonds in bondage. These people in bondage, the Israelites in bondage. And this is what has been, and this is what will be. So us leaving this mentality is us going back to nature, as God told Moses, like, hey, I want my people to go back into the wilderness and start worshiping me again. And this is what we're looking for, with freedom, to go back to the Logos, to go back to the Garden of Eden, to go back to the land where the tree of life is planted. This is in a natural environment. This is where the tree of life is. The tree of life is life itself. The tree of life is natural. The tree of life is found within the nature. And this is what is leaving this paradigm of these cities of Babylon, because Babylon is a city, right? So this is the Tower of Babel, which was created in a city. So these cities are creating all of this Babylon. This is just the idea of the Logos, who is the logic. When Jesus is actually being presented by God, he says, I'm going to send you my son, or my servant, who is called the branch. He's called the branch. He's called the tree. He's called the Logos. He is the tree of life, and we are now his branches, okay? So this is our family tree. This is how you actually accept Jesus to be in his family tree. It's just natural, right? So this is what we are looking for in this new paradigm, not a new age. Like, all right, like I used to always hear, like, yeah, new age theology or something like that. It's not about something that's being new, because what has been is what will be. So there is nothing new under the sun. If it's true, it's not new. But if it's new, it's not true, because there's nothing new under the sun. Everything has been. So the thing that is old is that people were enslaved before, and this is not new. So the thing that is still old is that people escaped the slavery after 400 years. So the same parallel is happening within this paradigm, because this is what God said, like, go and tell this to my people. He told this to Isaiah, and then Isaiah is like, all right, I'm going to go tell them, but I don't get it. And Jesus came, and then he's like, all right, you remember what Isaiah was telling you? Now, that's what I'm here to fulfill. This is what I'm telling you. So when we understand what is happening with Jesus, what's happening with Jesus is that in Thessalonians, we're told that we're going to see his real appearance. And when we see his real appearance, or the brightness of his light, or the brightness of his form, when we see his brightness, this is when we're going to see the ether. This is to see, like, ether is literally called the bright air. So when we see his brightness, as it says, we're seeing his appearance, we're seeing his ether. This is how Paul sees his brightness and is blinded by it. And this ether is when is his appearance. And what we see in Thessalonians is that God has sent us a deep delusion, so that the person who is sitting in his temple saying that he's God is not God, because this white person is not who it's supposed to be. And this is what Jesus is saying, that all right, hey, they're gonna lie about me, they're gonna do all of these things about me, and this is how it is playing out. And this is our enslavement, because since 1611 we've been enslaved. And we've been enslaved in the mind, thinking that white is God and black is dog, right? And this is what's been happening, because everything has been twisted upside down. And when you realize that it's actually the other way around, this is to know the truth. This is just what it is. This is just the escapement. This is just how you escape the enslavement. This is just all it is, just knowing the truth. And whatever the truth is, wherever it leads you, if the truth is to say that the Chinese people are created in the Garden of Eden and placed there as Adam and Eve, then that is the truth, and that is what's going to set us free. But if the truth is contrary to that, then find out the truth, and that is the freedom that is coming to anyone who is seriously searching for wisdom, while wisdom can still be found. Because to have the mark of the beast and all of that, to have the mark in your mind, in your pineal, this is where Israelite is. because this is where Jacob saw the angel in his pineal. And to have it in your arm, this is when you are doing the things with your body that this world wants you to conform to, or this present darkness wants you to conform to. So when you know the truth, then you're living in the light and you're looking for Jesus's appearance, which is the brightness, which is the ether, the bright air. And ether is actually where we get the word Ethiop. This is an Ethiopian. He was like that. This is what he's saying. Like, you see that brightness is called the ether. That ether is called the ethereal, the Ethiopian. And when you look into the true history, not trying to like fabricate like how Africa is awesome, which it is, but not trying to fabricate how awesome it is, because the only reason why I would say this is because of the way that the lie is so distorted, and the way that I'm so convinced that I can actually say this on camera is because I know that what God is saying, like the deep delusion that he has sent, is this, that the lie is so blatant. If you're really gonna look for it, you see like the lie is so blatant. Like whenever you read anything Greek, like Aesop's fables, it's Aesop, right? Like ASAP Rocky, like Aesop. Like this is actually Ethiop, like an Aethiop. It's Aethiop's fables. So these things are just there. If you really want to find it, you find the truth through just your knowledge. And this is what it means. To know the truth is to be set free. To know the truth is to just know what true reality is and live according to that. So this bondage is coming through the minds of the people. And to escape it is to look through the truth, and to actually start to live according to the principles of true reality, which is to be in love with love and live according to that. This is true freedom, and through this we find the real meaning of life. And what has been happening since 2000 is something that is crazy. That this war has now been going on for so long, so that people are not able to be united, so that people are always divided. So had 2000 happened, like had this whole age come without people having to fight over oil, like our understanding of everything would be different at this point already. But then now we have to think about all of these things that they're bombarding into our subconscious minds, that every single time you switch on the TV and watch the news, it is impossible for you to escape the war in the Middle East. It is impossible. Everything is linked to that, because this is the middle of the world. So regardless of whether you're watching news in China, this is linked to the Middle East. And this is what has happened in this present age, this present darkness. So this is his lamp fighting his light. And all of these are sons of Abraham. And I don't get why we can't be friends, why we can't all get along, because what they believe to be God is what Allah is, right? And this is the same thing that when Jesus was on the cross, his last words were to call out to someone who sounded like Eli, or someone who sounded like Allah. This is what it is. Like, why is he calling this name that sounds like Eli that you've never heard your pastor say? Whose name is that? This is Allah. This is what he's saying, like, Allah, come and save me. This is what he's saying on the cross. This is Jesus. And I'm not making this up. It's in your Bible. So this is what's happening in this world, that we actually can't see the truth. Because when actually the disciples were sitting with Jesus on the last meal, and then they asked him, hey, dude, Jesus, you're saying that someone's going to kill you. Who is it? Tell us, please, who is it? And then he's like, all right, cool, I'm going to tell you. In fact, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you. Then he's like, the person who I give this piece of bread to, it is him. Then he gives it to Judas blatantly in front of them after they asked the question, and then he told them that, hey, the person who I'm going to give this to is the person. He gives it to Judas, but they still don't get it. They still don't get it. Even though he gave it to him directly in front to show them who the person was deceiving them was, but they still didn't get it. So sometimes we're given all of these things, but we still don't get it. Like, the first thing to know is that Abraham, the father of all of our religions, has no religion at all. So this is the first thing that we have to actually know, that we're just keeping our minds in the same region. I'm not saying that don't read the Bible, but I'm saying live the Bible. Because this is the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan is not a Jew, he's not a Christian. This is just a Samaritan, and he is more commendable than all. So this is what we're supposed to be striving for. Not striving to be the best person who can preach in a church. This is cool if you're actually doing that. That is fine. Like I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is that there is more beyond your current region. And this is what is trapping our minds. So you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, Ethiopian.